Okay, we got a piece of Eastern aromatic cedar about 4.5 inches long by 2 3/4 square. And what we're gonna attempt to do here, we're gonna turn a hollow globe to use for a Christmas ornament. Of course, I didn't bore you with, you know how to, probably every one of you know how to draw a line from diagonal to diagonal to get your centers and then mount your spur end here. For a long time, I didn't know it would go in my chuck, and I'd taking it out, knocking it out, back and forth. But it'll clamp down in the chuck. Most chucks. First thing I'm going to do, get it to round. There's basically two different ways to check without turning the lathe off if it's round. If you watch the end of it, you see the shadow stop. You put it up here, that means it's pretty round if it's not jumping, so it still likes a little bit. You turn it off and look at it, and it is not quite round, so turn it back on. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to see what diameter we've came up with here, because that's going to, if we're making basically a sphere, it needs to be pretty equal, and this doesn't have to be perfect. It's a Christmas ornament. We're not going to use this as the Smithsonian or anything. So right now we are, let's say, 2.5 inches. So I'm going to find the center, and just say that's 2 1/4. Let's say 2.5 inches. Yeah, 2.5 inches. So 1 1/4 from each side. Okay, so this is going to be the end, this is going to be the end. I'm going to turn the lathe on and mark it so we can see it. I'm going to mark the center too, because that's going to be our starting point. We're going to pretty much leave it alone as we're going. I'm going to take the ends down a little bit, but later we're going to mount this up in a chuck later using a carbide tool. And you set my calipers to my chuck size. I put a drawing over there on the wall, circle that fits my chuck size. I hit it perfect. And since this is a dovetail chuck, I'm going to put a little dovetail on it. Take our calipers, don't get it in the chuck. I hit it again. Accidents do happen. Happy accidents. Unhappy ones happen too. And I have missed that, had to change chucks. So it didn't work out. Now we're gonna try to round this over. And start at the edge, start working it down. You see, I'm kind of riding the bevel there, because if you just put it straight in, you're not going to make a very slick cut. That would not nearly, it would nearly not need to be sanded. And it doesn't have to be a perfect globe. The last one of these I did certainly wasn't perfect, and everybody liked it, so. When we get through, if everything works, this thing's going to be hollow. A Christmas ornament, one of the advantages of that is really, really light. Plus, I'm going to put a little surprise deal at the end that my granddaughter actually suggested yesterday. I saw this on YouTube, and they even suggested that maybe even a pumpkin shape would be better than round. One reason for that, it's easier to do. And you don't have to worry about finishing it right now, because we got a lot more work to do on it. And what we're going to do, we're going to get right here in the center with a thin parting to it. You don't want to use a thick one, but you want to be careful about binding here, because as most of you know, this parting tool will bind even the thin one. Just slow it down a little bit in case it binds, and it won't hurt me. You look through there, see what you got left. You twist it off in a minute. Okay, I think we twisted it off now. We'll back it off. See if that won't just twist off. I'm going to lay one of those aside. We're going to take a spur center out. We're going to remount this with tinion. And I'm not going to be using this tailstock, but I'm going to bring it up so I can make sure I'm in the center, because as any of you know that's been turning a while, there's a lot of surprise when you say, well, I got that joker just right, and you don't. So we push it in to the headstock, we turn it, we see how that is not centered. So we'll loosen it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect center, but I like it perfect center. So pretty close enough. Close counts and horseshoes and hand grenades. And I am the world's worst to pile tools up on my lathe. And I've got a perfectly good magnetic holder right behind me, and I accumulate every tool I got, which this is the 6th or 7th ornament that I have turned this morning. So I got everything laid out. Okay, I always start at the center. And we're not going to try to, there's a kickback. I could lie to you and tell you I never do that, but I'm not going to. The wood turner tell you he never gets a kickback. He's trying to impress himself. Because he's certainly not going to impress another wood turner. And I can do all this with a gouge. I got this little easy, this Savannah carbide tool. It's really smooth. And this Eastern Aromatic red cedar is extremely easy to burst. I could not tell you how many bowls that I have blown up of this, and there's here around here it is very, very common. So it's tempting to use it a lot. Okay. I could go thinner with a better hardwood, but I don't want to go thinner. Do not touch. Well, I've got a little chip out there, but I'm going to leave it there and I'll take it down later if it works. Like I say, this stuff's bad to chip out. And part of that could have been my kickback a while ago. So we're going to repeat it with the other one. Going to put it in the chuck. Let's put it in loose. Pull our tailstock up. You're going to have to edit this one some. Get my tailstock off. Can't get it back on. My tool holder. Finally, okay, we got a little nib there. We twisted that off its perfect center, supposedly. I'm gonna lock it down, turn it on, and it is pretty good. Back the tailstock off, line the tool rest up, a little below center, away from the wood. Always turn it by hand. Make sure you clear. Back to my old carbide tool. With this cedar, you don't want to get too thin with those sidewalls, because I can assure you it will break. It is not a hardwood. So I've decided I'm going to put this back in there. I'm going to get rid of this little burr around here before I start. Make sure it's going to work out. Center that up. Loosen that up a little bit. Pop it in place. Tighten it down. Back it off. You can edit all this part out. Not too pretty. Alright, just keep editing. And take this out. Okay, you start back now. So what we're going to do, we're going to go out and we're going to take wood glue and put on this. We're going to put it back in the lathe. We're going to match up the grain as best we can. Find a little place, yeah. There it goes. We're going to put wood glue on it, and we're going to glue it, and we're going to let it dry, and then we'll come back and finish that out. So, I'm not going to bore you with putting glue on there. I'm fixing to put glue on there, and I'll be back to the lathe in a minute.